All right, recording this, I've got 13 days left until I do USPA Ultra Nats out in Anaheim, California. Looking forward to it. It's been one of my best preps ever. PR'd on squat and deadlift for they're all rep PRs because that's just how I train. This was my attempt at a bench PR before that. I have not been very good at hitting bench PRs in prep. It's just not usually how it goes. And then we have hit bench PRs or meet PRs at meets because I need to deload a lot of times for my bench to be there. But we had a cool opportunity. The gym that I actually teach classes at held a really cool event here. You can see there's a live band in the background. It was cool. It was a metal band. I actually used to play in a metal band. Little known fact about me. I played bass in a metal band. So it was invite only on who could bench. So a couple really big benchers got to come out. One of them was Swolfia, otherwise known as Sophia. She's a friend. She was a client. She's a state record holder on bench. I think she took a shot at an 80 kg bench on this day. We were going to try 82 or 85, or maybe this was 82. I apologize for not remembering. She's a great bench presser. She didn't have an amazing day, particularly benching on this day. I think the big shot that she took, she kind of lost her upper back. And sank in a little bit. A little bit the same thing happens to me when I attempt big bench PRs. But the environment was still cool, and we all went for some big ones. There was actually a guy, Dan Morozier, who was going with he got up to 485 plus chains. That was my attempt at 446 right there. I got about halfway up, and then just my triceps gave out. This is actually in backwards order. So you're going to see the 413 last warm-up. 413 is nothing to write home about, but dang, did that move smooth. So that was cool. Cool little bench day that was held there. I hope the unit does some more events like that. That was pretty cool. This, going backwards in time, was the squat day I did. This was actually the day before that bench day. And this is my last heavy squat day. So I used the Buffalo bar for this. You're going to see we work our way up to 655 for 5. Huge PR for me. In the last strongman meet I did back in March, I trained myself instead of with a coach. And there was a couple of times where I kind of took my own deloads in the middle of it and built less fatigue, and then was able to hit some big PRs. And one of them specifically was 645 for 4 on the Buffalo bar. And I remember being so freaking excited about that PR because in past trainings, the last big squat I did, I think twice, before doing 700 and then 705 was the same thing. It was 635 for 3. So 655 for 5 feels like a huge improvement in my squat. And honestly, you're going to see it goes pretty well. I would even go so far as to say it kind of felt easy, which is just such a great sign. It gives me a ton of confidence. It's probably not super noticeable, but I did work the bar a little bit further down my back than I normally do. I am definitely a high bar squatter, but it's not necessarily by choice. And it's not because I have strong quads. Normally a high bar squatter, super strong quads. I definitely have stronger hamstrings and now a stronger lower back thanks to working with my coach. Yeah, that's the last warm-up, 595. I'm moving like an empty bar. That's scary good. So here it is. This is 655. Definitely worked it a little bit farther down my shoulders, which is awesome. I was just really able to keep my upper back tight. And if you can keep your core and your upper back tight in a squat, it just comes down to leg power. And most people have the leg power. Whatever you can leg press, it's usually going to be way, way, way more than you can squat. The limiting factors are your core bracing, breathing and bracing, right? And your upper back tightness. Once one of those two things give out, then your legs are pressing against, nothing because the bar is going to start coming down and spotters are going to have to grab it. So, and that's the other thing about doing rep work like this, because if you can hold your core brace and you can hold your upper back for 5 reps with that kind of weight, you're in good shape. You're going to see me take this twice just because I record reels and so is on my phone. But yeah, it moves so well that honestly, I think Trinity and Charlie thought I was going to take it for one more rep. Granted, I think that's because Trinity thought I only did 4 reps. Charlie knew I had done 5. He just legitimately realized how easy it was and how fast it moved that I could have taken it for one more. And I am happy with depth on these. It's like blink and you'll miss it. And it's not, USAPL, ass to grass, sinking them, but it's getting a depth standard. So I've never gotten red lighted for depth. So I'm not super worried. Also, when I get to a straight bar and I get to meets, it's usually a little bit easier to sink it than on these curve bars. The curve bars, definitely the further you go down, the more it's starting to wobble and stuff like that. So it makes it hard, but it's good to train on. The back downs for this day were diabolical. I was a little shocked that my coach Pete wanted me to do something so high rep after doing that. I mean, 655 for 5 was incredibly taxing, but that's what we're doing. We're building crazy work capacity. So we threw, what is this, 405 on there plus red bands. Red bands are super aggressive. I did have to replace my red bands, and Elite FTS didn't have any, which is a tragedy. So these are like some Amazon bands. So they still work, but I'm sad that Elite FTS doesn't have the long red bands right now. But I did this for 12, and I'm going to be honest, like, it wasn't hard at all, so maybe that's part of why it was a good idea as a back down. But I will say I was kind of mentally being a weenie, as Trinity would say. So this said 12 to 15, and I did 12, and I just got that mindset where I was like, yeah, good enough. I'm going to do 12 and put it back. I really prefer to push, and anytime that I'm given a rep range like that, which is kind of our version of training with RPE, I'm usually working with what we call fixed weight. It's probably based on a percentage, but it's not necessarily the most important part of it. But a lot of times I'll have rep ranges. So even the 655 for 5 definitely said 4 to 5 reps. I knew I wanted 5 reps, but then if I put it back at 4, it's like, okay, hey, we know we're in the same range. This was really fun. This is another thing I got to do. So after the back down squats, I had back down good mornings. So we did 300-pound SSB good mornings to pins. This is something I have all my clients do, usually in the first 3 weeks. And it's funny because I will admit most of them don't do them correctly. I think mostly because it's a tough movement. I have them do SSB good mornings to pins, and a lot of times you'll see they don't put the bar down to the pins. Some of them don't use pins at all because they prefer not to. And it's all good. I'm happy if they're doing good mornings at all because this is a super tough movement. It's not like I was amazing at these when I started, but definitely something I got really good at and I take a lot of pride in. So it's really fun. On the first set, I remember being like, dang, after 655 for 5 and back downs, feels like I could have done 400 pounds for reps. But on the second set here, by the time I get to like the 8th rep, I'm probably like screaming and grunting. So I felt it for sure. I love these though. And really it's a great way to teach somebody how to, well, one, how to hinge properly, but also how to core brace, because if you don't use that belt properly, like if I took the belt off, this would be impossible. Even though I'm doing 2 sets of 10 as a back down, I would not do these beltless. It's all about trying to push your stomach, forward, try to break the belt open. It definitely takes hamstring strength. It takes lower back strength. I actually got super sore on my traps from doing this because the bar kind of like, especially if you do it to pins as low as I am, which you definitely don't have to. I'm just kind of doing it because it's a flex that I can do. But then my traps got super sore because I'm pressing my neck back into the bar and flexing my traps to be able to just, keep the bar from sliding up my head. But yeah, I absolutely love these. Felt a super big pump in the erector muscles going up my spine, which is awesome. I one time had an MRI, and they said they couldn't even read the MRI because my erectors and my low back are so big, and that's the biggest flex. It's in my medical files. That, to me, is the biggest flex ever. So just trying to continue that legendary medical problem. And then this was today. So just kind of a nice, easy, light bench day after everything that we had going on. So it's like 285. It's 130 kgs, probably 286. In pounds, did super close grip, did long pauses. I did the PR attempts in these wraps too. These are the new momentum wraps that Blake hooked me up with. Love these. They feel absolutely awesome. Now, the ones I'm using are the super, super stiff, the stiffest ones that he has. I love that. They feel great to me. You got to be strong just to be able to pull them on your wrist the right way. So absolutely love these. Excited to be using them just in general. And the idea that some of you guys are wrapping these on your elbows to bench is wild to me. I wrapped Blake's elbows, and I think he did like 440 for 4.5 reps at that unit thing, which is wild to me. So, I'm never probably going to wrap my elbows, but it is cool to see. Then I did, as a finisher, we did some heavy tricep press downs. Here's the trick. These are done in the lat pull down. Now, my coach had been telling me that, and I think the last 3 times I didn't understand what he meant, but it's because the lat pull-down stack is much heavier. The problem is if I just try to use the regular stacks now, I can just do the entire stack for like 20 reps, and the RPE is not there. This was actually heavy, so that was super fun.